Hi guys. It's been a long time coming. I'm talking about the fucking Omegaverse. Omegaverse is a fanfiction trope based in a universe where humans are fusions with wolves. Kind of. Very loosely. This is kind of like leftovers. Basically, it's just giving them more animalistic instincts, heightened senses of smell, other senses. Sometimes they have heightened hearing. Usually it's just the smell stuff. They have a different reproductive cycle with heats and ruts. It also features different genitalia. We'll get to that in a second. I have a whole breakdown of that. This trope is used to create sexy situations and also soulmate scenarios. And it's basically just a giant playground for fanfiction writers. They get to fuck around, have fun with it. Let's get into what these secondary genders are. Who knows? Alphas. Alphas are the dominant secondary gender. They feature penises that are capable of nodding. I'll get to it later. You know what? We don't need to get into it. So they also have a rut and are often depicted as aggressive, sex-driven, and hot-headed, and often they're very territorial, possessive over their partners. Betas are often the most human of the secondary genders. Sometimes there's no differences at all. They don't have a scent. They can't smell other people very strongly. They don't have heats or ruts, and they don't have penises that cannot. Sometimes fics just don't include them because they're kind of boring. I gotta be so real with you. Omegas are a submissive secondary gender. They are the gender that's capable of giving birth. With some exceptions, sometimes female alphas are able to give birth, sometimes they're not. And of course, betas. In some universes, male omegas can also impregnate as well as giving birth. It depends on what kind of genitalia. A lot of this revolves around genitalia. Omegas produce slick, they go into heats, are often more caring, gentle, and soft. We gotta talk about the genitalia. It's been 2 minutes, but I know that you guys have all been on the edge of your seat. There's so many genital situations that are possible in the Omegaverse. The Wikipedia page for the Omegaverse has a chart for all the different combinations. One of the defaults is an intersex style of genitalia. Now, when I say intersex style, it's kind of dehumanizing. There are people who are actually intersex in the real world. In that kind of style, male omegas and female alphas have both penises and vaginas. Both will usually have a smaller penis than a male alpha. Sometimes male omegas will just have like a micro penis or a cocklet, as it's called. Sometimes male omegas will just have vaginas, even going so far as to make them transform when they present to get a vagina where they used to have a penis. Transgenderism within secondary genders is not often explored, and there are a lot of common transphobic issues that arise from the differences between secondary genders from the traditional gender and sexes of the real world. Crazy, right? Of course, the exploration of these combinations of genders leaves a lot of room for exploration of different aspects of transgenderism. There's naturally a lot of gender essentialism, heteronormity, and transphobia in a world that has such strict gender and sex-based sociology built into the universe system. Let's get into the fun stuff. Knots and slick. We're still talking about genitals here, people. Alphas can produce a knot at the base of their penis. Usually it's got like a little tip, and then it goes Alphas can produce a knot at the base of their penis in order to lock themselves into the person they are having sex with to secure their cum inside their partner as a genetic method to secure reproduction. Omegas can produce slick either in a vagina or an anus depending on the lore of the specific fic. Slick is produced in response to sexual stimulation and is intended to aid sex. Often it smells like the scent of the omega. Because of the nature of slick and heats and ruts, despite the extreme levels of sex, knots are like their fist size, the base of the dick. There's very little foreplay. They kind of just jump right into it because it's like a fuck or die situation. Heats and ruts. Alphas and omegas go into ruts or heats respectively, a period of time annually. The exact time differs fic to fic from every month to every year and in between, where the person in the heat/rut has a period of increased sexual desire and need. Sometimes it's fuck or die, sometimes it's like I'm really, really horny that I can't live my life for the next week or 2 days or whatever. Often this can only be satiated by the opposite secondary gender fucking to completion. Often the heat/rut will induce a drug-like state in the person at hand, meaning consent can be iffy at times. The goal of heats and ruts is to get pregnant. It's breeding season. I'm sorry, guys. It's Impreg time! Impreg, a very common trope that is necessary to the genre, is Impreg. It is not always present, but is essential to the idea of the Omegaverse. Impreg means male pregnancy. The concept of a male character not only having a vagina but giving birth is not exclusive to the Omegaverse, but it is kind of essential to the genre, given the concept of secondary genders. Now, Evie, You might be saying, this is a lot, and it's kind of gross, and I don't like it. You're not alone. There are a lot of common tropes in the Omegaverse that are often very hated, things like Impreg, sudden or surprise pregnancy, breeding, the questionable or dubious consent of heats and ruts, and the complexity of sexes, and the frequent use of the term cocklet, as I said earlier, and of course the proximity to furries. These things play into the controversy of the genre of Omegaverse. It is extremely hit or miss. It's kind of infamous in the fanfiction world. You either love it or you hate it. Because of the stereotypes of aggressive, dominant, masculine alphas with big dicks and knots and the timid, submissive, breedable, and slick vagina, there is obviously a bunch of sexism and misogyny and just overall gender grossness. There are also a lot of people who are trying to work against this and make less transphobic and sexist Omegaverses. A lot of people are just willing to write off all of this because they're like, how good can it be? It's just schlock, and it's kind of gross. I think that it's one of the most important fanfiction tropes. This is when we get into the thesis of the video. This is the point. Listen closely. Omegaverse started as a kink meme. A kink meme is a post on social media that says, make a fic about this kink, this specific scenario. So people will give scenarios that follow that kink meme, then people will write fics about that. That's where this started. It was a live journal post. It was a live journal post 13 years ago, and it spiraled out into a massive trope, or I would say a genre. It widened itself across every single fandom that's existed. I looked up Diary of a Wimpy Kid ABO the other day as part of the research for this video, and it exists, and it's worse than you can imagine. There's hundreds of thousands of fics that exist within the genre of the Omegaverse. It features some of the same tropes within each story, the essentials, but it's expanded. Every single universe is different because it's essentially a set of rules that you can create and customize and mix and match to whatever genre of fic you're writing, whatever like level of porn you're looking for, or what universe and genre the source material exists in, and how monster fucking you're willing to go. How much of a wolf are you willing to fuck? All of this is custom. There are hundreds of tags that are synonymous with the tag alpha, beta, and omega, and there are over 3,000 subtags. As it expanded, even outside of the world of fanfiction, which is rare, but happens, and people see it on their TikToks because monster fucking's getting real popular these days, it has become a phenomenon. It is so important to fanfiction. It's become a tool to create infinite different universes within fandom. And I think that's cool. And maybe I want to fuck a werewolf, but what of it, motherfucker?